Hello, Quack and Duck here. Today I'm going to go over my experience with watching Hellva and get into some of the characters I liked and some things I didn't like about the show. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So Hellva was a very interesting show. It made me laugh in some parts. Other parts were admittedly kind of boring. But overall, it was a very fun experience. It was almost like its parent show, Hazbin Hotel, but with the sexual stuff dialed up a lot. There was also a lot more meat to the show than Hazbin Hotel had, like more characters we could explore, for example, the 7 Deadly Sins, but more on them later. This show is also not really forced in my opinion. Like, we actually get depth with Hell of a Boss, while in Hazbin Hotel, the plot was kind of rushed and went too fast in some parts. But like I said, Hell of a Boss takes it a bit slow. Fast in some parts, like the beginning of the show, I'm not gonna lie. The first to 13-minute episode screwed over a tiny bit of Season 1's plot, but the creators did redeem this lost time for 20 to 23-minute episodes for Season 2, and things made a lot more sense since things slowed down. I also would like to see more of Hell in both Hazbin Hotel and Hellva. At first, I thought Hell was this, just the Pride Ring, but I was obviously wrong. And thanks to YouTube and Hello Boss itself, I now know that Heaven also has 7 rings, which kind of makes sense, but also makes me confused. Are the 7 rings in Heaven based on the 7 heavenly virtues? Just like how Hell has the 7 deadly sins? I guess we will have to wait and find out. But I have so many questions about both Hazbin and Hello Boss that just never get answered. And feel free to comment down below to answer some of these questions I have. 1. Does the exterminations only happen in the Pride Ring, or do they happen everywhere else? Like, if I went to Lust, would the exterminations still happen in that ring? 2. How can demons travel to the mortal realm? I thought everyone was stuck in hell no matter what. But if you have a special book owned by a Goethra, or a special crystal, you can travel from hell to earth whenever you please. You can even buy a disguise. Number 3. Can imps or hellborn become overlords? Is it possible? For example, Moxie's dad. He's a mafia boss with a massive enterprise. He's an imp. But it never really states if Moxie's dad is or isn't an overlord. Personally, I think he is, only because he holds a massive influence and can make anyone beg at his feet. Last question. How can hell have such bright covered skies? For example, in Gluttony, the sun is always up, but in Pride, it's always red, in Lust, it's always raining, and in Sloth, it's always pink, and Envy is reportedly to be an ocean. I have so many other questions, but we would be here all day. But that proves how much depth Hello Boss has, and it can make you wonder and question some things about it. Not saying Hazbin Hotel has no depth, but it does lack in some places. But one thing that both shows were good at, especially this show, were the characters. The characters in Hello Boss were just fleshed out just as well as Hazbin Hotel's characters were. Some of my personal favorites were Millie, Moxie, and Blitz. They were funny and acted more like humans than some humans ever will in this show. Although, they are still demons that kill for a living. Now, one character in the main cast I changed my opinion about is Luna. Admittedly, Luna is still kind of a boring character, mostly because she got sidelined for most of the time. I mean, she was funny sometimes, but there's not enough screen time to really make more of an opinion on her. As for the other characters, mostly side characters, they were decent, like Fizzarolli. Only seen in 2 episodes in Season 1, most of his appearances were in Season 2. And he's pretty decent as a character. But there were other characters I liked a lot too, like Beelzebub. She was one of the 7 deadly sins. She's the sin of gluttony, and I thought she would be very ugly, to be honest. But I was surprised to see that she was a very slim and looked normal. But she does take the sin of gluttony to heart. For example, she can spawn food from thin air and can make any other food or drink twice their size. Now, unfortunately, we only get to see her once. Maybe we will see more of her in a future episode. But since I talked about one of the 7 deadly sins, I might as well talk about the other 2 that were seen in the show. Starting with the one I hate the most with a passion, Mammon. He has the worst attitude I have ever seen. Worse than Adam, and that's saying a lot. He's also probably one of the worst sins in the show, only because the other sins don't really do much with their power. Mammon will do anything for money, even if it means exploiting Hell's greatest clown, Fizzaroli, and literally works him to the verge of a panic attack. And right after Fizzaroli quits, he gets infuriated because he was a cash cow. So overall, he was just the worst sin in the show and overall because he's not funny, he's boring, doesn't make sense, and is just a jerk that even beats Adam in my opinion, and that's saying a lot. Now, one deadly sin I actually really liked was Asmodeus, the sin of lust, and surprisingly, he's a good guy. Now, when you think of lust, what do you think? Pervs and nonstop edging to the most random things? But Asmodeus, like that, isn't like that, nor is Ring. It's all consensual, and he even states himself that it's about commitment and true love.
Lust shouldn't be about force. It's an art to be earned and enjoyed. It's all about that journey to Pleasure Town. You feel me?
Which makes the lust ring sound civilized. It's also the only ring where things are mostly normal, from what I saw anyway. But Asmodeus acts more like an average guy, still sexual since he's the sin of lust, but like I said, he's just like a normal guy. And now the part I held back for a bit because it's the only con I have about this show. Now I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but the songs in this show are not good. I'm sorry. But the songs in the show are still better than Welcome to Heaven or any of the songs from the original Hazbin Hotel pilot. I mean, Cotton Candy was decent, but for the most part, some songs didn't make sense in my opinion, except for the one in the club and the Lust Ring. I actually really like that song. It's actually a very heartwarming song between Millie and Moxie. But overall, the songs are just forgettable, and they just don't spark my interest. Nothing personal, I just wish they had the same flair and energy as Hazbin Hotel songs. Again, minus Welcome to Heaven. Also, I noticed one thing about this show, and that was the animation quality. The quality of the show progressively got better and better. For example, the fight scene in episode 6 in season 1. Well, that's all I had to say about Hello Boss and what my experience was like. It made me feel more invested in Vizzy-Pop's work. And with Hazbin Hotel Season 2 on the way, it's making me even more excited for what's to come. Now, eventually, I'm going to make a character tier list, including all of the Hellva Boss characters and the Hazbin Hotel characters. And if you like today's video and are not subscribed, consider subscribing. But anyway, I hope you like this video, and I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and I hope you tune in for me next time.